Bobby Jones is arguably the best golfer of all time, winning 13 majors as an amateur, including the Grand Slam in 1930, the same year he retired at 28. Let's take a look at what made his swing so special and why he probably cannot hit a golf ball with today's technology. Good morning, Land Golf Academy members and guests. Welcome back to another swing evaluation series, and today we're doing it on the great Bobby Jones. Now, Bobby Jones is a very special individual. If you know anything about his history, you know that he accomplished one of the greatest feats of all time in golf, and this includes the Grand Slam of golf, 4 majors in the same year. Now, Tiger was his closest. He got 4 consecutive majors, although it was 2 different years. Tiger's feat is still probably just as good as this one. This one's looked at differently because it included the 2 amateurs and the 2 opens, so the British Amateur, the US Amateur, the British Open. And I think this was quite a feat, especially since he was not a professional golfer and instead was a lawyer, so it must have been kind of hard to swing with the fin on his back. Altogether, Bobby played in 31 major championships, winning 13 of them and finishing in the top 10 27 times, so he was quite a golfer. And on top of this, after he completed his Grand Slam in 1930 at the age of 28, he retired from golf. And on top of this, he served in World War II in the intelligence agency and reaching lieutenant colonel, so he was a great man indeed. And I will always remember this quote from Bobby Jones that said, "A man stands his tallest when he kneels down to help a child." And that really shaped my life in Mount Development Junior Academies. But enough about the man, let's take a look at his motions. Now, his motions are very smooth, very silky, and this is due to his equipment. He played with hickory shafted golf clubs. Now, the thing with hickory shaft is they do torque, they do twist a lot, so you see a lot of hand manipulation in the golf swing back then. Today's equipment is a lot stiffer, which allows the club head to keep up with the body's rotation. But back in the day, when it was made from wood and you had to shellac the shafts, you couldn't really get that club head to work for you, so you had to start to do some accommodations with your hands and arms, and we will see a lot of that today. So it is very rare for somebody to take this golf swing and expect that person to hit current technology. Now, not to say that he won't be able to do that. Let's say we can get a time machine and bring some of our clubs back to him. He'd probably learn how to do it correctly just because he's very gifted. But it just so happens that these motions today, I would not emulate them at all with today's equipment, or else you'll be seeing a PGA Pro much sooner than you need to. So the body mechanics of the golf swing compared to today's swing, there's some similarities. A lot of this is spine angle retention, stealing ground force correctly, utilizing weight distribution. And there's actually a cool video here of him zooming up on his footwork, and we'll see some comparisons on how it looks to today's modern golf swing. And we'll see how they share some things that we're trying to teach our students today with the modern day equipment. So just as always, we're going to start with some lines here. That's his back brace line. I'm going to draw some impact line here. We'll draw his head and we'll see how he rocks around his head. Not much. If you've seen my Nicklaus evaluation I did a couple days ago, you'll see how he has established his center and then he rocks around that center. So let's see if Bobby Jones can do the same thing. This is midway. Let's see if this is in the beat. Yeah, this is right at his takeaway. So you see that action with his hands move first, his club head stays behind, and this is what he's doing. He's working the shaft, and you can see that shaft flex already, so you can see how kind of whippy this club was. So obviously we don't do that anymore. It's more of a one-piece takeaway, but there's that initial whipping of the hands going. With his spine angle, you can see how his hands are still connected, kind of what we've been teaching at our evaluation series that we do in Reddit here. Everything should be matching that center of your core. As he takes the club back, there goes the whipping, so he's spinning around his hand. Look at that club head. It's already bowing, right? As we take that club back. So this is why they had a lot of hand manipulation. He's doing a great job though of just turning around that spine angle. You can see he's still in that great position. Now this is kind of where the modern day golfer would kind of stop, maybe get their hands to be a little bit higher and then just drive down with their body. You know, the generation of the steel players, so Ben Hogan, Sam Snead, they really start to get their whole body involved and drive and strike that golf ball more with the right shoulder while keeping their hands in front of their chest more and swinging more under the golf ball with their body. So that increased their tilt. You don't see a lot of tilt with Bobby Jones here because he had to get his arms and hands to release a little bit sooner, and if you start tilting and releasing your hands and arms, you duff it, kind of like I do a lot of the times. As we take that club back even further now we see some interesting things happen, kind of like we looked at Jack Nicklaus a little bit. So that left foot comes on up and he starts to tilt towards the target. So now his spine angle is actually leaning towards the target, but he's creating a lot of space. So a lot of whipping action going here. Hands and arms are really getting involved here. You know, the club's way past parallel. He does that because he tilts a little bit more. So if you back it up a little bit here, you know, that extra little bit of tilting action there helps get his arms back even further. Now he's trying to activate that shaft. As he comes through, leg just drives on that impact line very nicely. Left heel plants just like we saw Jack Nicklaus a couple days ago, and he starts to turn and unwind. Now this is where they start to get a little bit different here. So from the modern day golfer, let's clean up this line here. So the modern day golfer, what he does from this point of view is he continues to rotate and he holds on to that angle as much as he can. He's trying to conserve that angle. It's called conservation of angular momentum. And as he's trying to conserve it, his whole right body will turn and tilt a lot more, and that'll help him square that club face up more with his body and not rely on his hands and arms or her hands and arms to release that club face. And then we see here, we go back a frame, here comes the hands and arms. So he's already turned and tilted as much as he could, and now the rest is just hands and arms. So you see that action there. We don't see that in today's modern golfers. They're still kind of turning more and more as that club face squares up, but he had to do that because of that whippy club. He's trying to time that shaft. He releases it up there, and then the right hand will now go over. So you see a lot of this is hand manipulation to get that club face to square, and he's a very feel-oriented player. Obviously, there's no gloves. I don't think they had gloves back then, but if they did, I would imagine he would not wear them because it limits his feel. But the good thing about this, again, is where's his hands and arms? They're still connected to his core, which is what he shares with the modern day golfer. As he comes through, now he can still continue that turn. Look at that right hand really over the left because it's gone through, and he comes on up to that left side. But this is about as silky smooth as you can imagine a golf swing to be, specifically for that era. Now, in order to time that club all the time, you have to be extremely gifted. So I could only imagine how many more majors he would have won if he did this for a living. But then again, maybe he did it for fun, and that's why he won more majors. So it just depends. Let's go to the next video. So Bobby did a production series in Hollywood with a bunch of movie stars of that time, and this is from his How I Play Golf series. Not sure what golf course this is. I know it's in Southern California, so it's not Riviera. It doesn't look like Riviera. It's either Bel Air, maybe Griffith Park, but it's one of those. And let's just take a look at this down the line. And what I want you to see here is how he really maintains his spine angle. And this is key. It's key when the golf club is first introduced all the way until the most recent top player in the world. They all hold their spine angle, and they do that with correct weight management. So as we take this club back, you know, we can see he gets that top plane line pretty well. A lot of turn, a lot of initial turn going on here, more so than we do nowadays, because we're not trying to work a shaft. We're trying to get that shaft to stay more connected to our body while we maintain the limited motions that we need to with our hands and arms. So as he drops that club down in the slot, does it pretty nicely. It's now connected to his center. Now he can just roll over straight through. But look at the spine angle. It doesn't move, doesn't come up, doesn't shaft hump like we call it. His head is staying in that nice box, nice full release because of that rotation. Releases the club back in between the slot there. Arm gets to that secondary plane line very naturally, and you can see this. The club at the very top matches pretty close to his initial setup. So that club is working its way around pretty straight. It doesn't really go, you know, crooked like most of us do, myself included. But I just wanted to show you that because it's a really good key to show that no matter what equipment you have to maintain your spine angle so your hands and arms can now work the club how it needs to be. For him, he had to be more involved. For the modern day golfer, there had to be more body involved. But as long as that spine angle is retaining itself, you'll have less misses, or should I say less worse misses. Your dispersions will be less. Alright, so from this point of view, I just want you to watch the hand manipulation more so than the modern day golfer. He's already turned as much as he can. Now the club is going to be whipping around in his hands because of that hickory shafted motion. So from here to here, you see there's a lot of manipulation on the hands to time that shaft. So the body is pretty much opened up, and now he's trying to release. Now some of us try to strive for this position, but there's no need to because we have clubs that are stronger than that. You know, I see a lot of students that strive for this position where they're trying to get their body open and let their hands, you know, catch up and release the club face. You can try and make that work, but it takes a lot of golf balls to do that nowadays with today's equipment. You needed to do that back then because that shaft, you had to learn how to time that shaft. But nowadays we have stronger steel shafts that you can tip stiffen, so you don't have to manipulate so much, so you can get more rotation closer to the golf ball, which will help you eliminate the motions of your hands and arms, which again control your dispersion. So be careful who you try to emulate, but this is a great one to watch. But that's a lot of manipulation right at impact. He had to have timing of a lawyer to pull that off. Alright, so I've gone ahead and drew a couple lines here. This is basically his center point. And so we kind of draw up where his legs are and see how he pivots around that. Now he should, based on this old style swing, he should really pivot that right hip to get to that center line. This line over here is his right hip line, and this line here is basically connecting his spine angle to the golf ball. Now that's where his center point is. Now he should be revolving around that center point. Now he makes a move at the top of his swing to move left. Now you notice where that ball position is. That ball position is pretty far to the left. So he has figured out to make a different move at the top of the swing to get that weight transfer going to the golf ball. Now, he might have figured this out through trial and error, that moving that golf ball even more forward allows that club to whip through, and then he had to make that extra move at the top of the swing. I'll show you to get there. Who knows what it is, but this is a very unique motion, but it's because of the club. So let's back up here. Let's go at the top of the swing. Look at that, perfectly in that bow tie. Now we see he's ready to drive into it, but look at where that ball position is. So if you draw the center to the ball position, you know, his center right now is there. So he has to now move his body left to shift that center close to the golf ball. So does he do that? Let's take a look at this first move. There goes that move. So he's moved left to move the center closer to the golf ball. But he's doing this to allow the shaft as well. So as he comes on through, he's still now recentered himself. His hands are going to be slightly ahead, and there goes that release. But is it still connected to his core? Yes, it is. It's still connected to that center of his body, not so much the center of his old swing, but his new swing on the downswing. But as long as you're still connected and you have that nice straight line at impact or past impact, you're good to go. And there goes that manipulation, releasing the hands. Not a lot of tilt that you see as today's player, and he gets on that left side quite beautifully to meet that left brace line. So, the left impact line. Alright, so this is the video I wanted to show you a lot and compare it to today's players. And this is the groundwork, the foot action, because that really doesn't change because we're trying to develop a rotational motion and we're trying to maintain our posture. So to do that, you have to have really good, correct management of your weight. And if you don't have correct management of your weight, you lose your spine angle, then your hands and arms get flippy, you adjust the plane. So this is very important. And this video was taken probably in the late 20s, so almost 100 years ago, and we still have the same footwork. Now obviously this backswing as he lifts his left foot is not really normal now, although I do know plenty of people that do that, but that's just to help get that body really to open away from the target, so really turn your body. But what I want you to look at is where the weight is going to go. So as he drives down into it, it's going to shift from his toes. You can see his toes pushing, and it's going to receive on that back left heel. So as he strikes the golf ball, he's pushing it off there. You see the toe kind of coming up in the air. After impact, the toe definitely comes up in the air, so he's pushing his weight this way, so towards your back left heel. If you don't do that, you cannot stay down because your weight management is going to your toes, forcing you to stand up, forcing you to get hunched, running out of room. That's where flips come in. That's where the chicken wing comes in. So if you're working with somebody and they're trying to address your chicken wing and they're not mentioning weight distribution, that's a cause and effect. So you need to go find somebody else that can help you change what's this. You know, the result is there because you're trying to hit the golf ball. We don't fix results, we fix causes of the results. So it's a cool video. Alright, so this next video here, I've got Bobby Jones hitting the golf ball. We're going to put Tiger Woods after that and then compare them just to show you how the right shoulder doesn't tilt as much as Tiger's does and also why. So as we come down into impact, we're missing a bunch of frames here. This is the best we can do. You can see hands and arms really get involved, release that club face, body kind of stops rotating, and watch that right shoulder comes on up sooner, even though the hands and arms are still connected. A lot of right hand over left to release the club, and then he comes on over. Now if we take a look at Tiger, let's pull up Tiger here. Okay, now let's watch Tiger. Now, I wish we had Minolta swing cam. For Bobby, we have 2 frames to work with. Here we have a lot more frames, but we can start to see some action here as he's tilting under. So his right shoulder's tilting, left shoulder's coming on up. His hands don't have to release. He's striking down. His hands are way ahead of that golf ball, which helps de-loft the club face, and it also stops him from flipping because now his body has to be more involved. And you can see here, right shoulder has to go more under. His hand isn't released. The club is still basically forward pressing where it was. It's still forward pressing. It's still forward pressing. It's still forward pressing. Right shoulder is much more under than what we see Bobby. And here is his, where it gets the parallel, and it's still not even connected to his body yet. So he hasn't released it. He only really gets his hands in front of the body all the way up here. So we can see how this is more of a body motion because those clubs cannot keep up with this extreme power that Tiger puts on them. Where if I gave Tiger some hickory shafted clubs and he did that, he might snap the shaft, he might duff it, he might top the ball because that club is really whipping around. Let's just compare them side by side to show you. Right, so we're going to try and time these up together because we're skipping a bunch of shafts. We're close to it now. So as we come into the impact zone, we can see how Tiger is still pressing the club, right? Where Bobby had to release the club already. The right shoulder position looks pretty similar. Body rotation looks pretty similar. Tiger's more down over the golf ball. He has more spine angle into the golf club, into the golf ball. Where Bobby Jones is kind of standing up and pushing up away from it. As we go back further, we can see in this motion here, look at the right shoulder, right? So we're going to draw the point where club is going in connection with the body. Okay, so that it already passed, so there's the club there. So it's probably right here is where it is level with your spine. So in other words, the center of your spine, the hands are matching that, and the club shaft is matching that. So it's all creating one line. Where Tiger, we can see it doesn't get there until about here. Back up. Okay, so that's where Tiger is. So what's happening here? Look at that right shoulder. Right shoulder is more down, driving the golf ball into the ground, getting more lift, getting much more power. Now that's not to say that Bobby Jones could not hit a ball far. I've heard tales of him hitting it over 300, but that could be fish tales. We don't really know. But I would imagine if you time that shaft up correctly, there are occasions that you can hit it pretty far. The reason why today's modern golfer hits it as far more often is because the equipment is keeping up with their body, so they can build some consistent motions without that club head fluttering around. But overall, I hope this helps you recognize that even though through the years of equipment changes and technology changes, there are some things that they all keep in common, which is always making sure that you hold that spine angle by getting the ground force to go in the correct direction. So if you're not doing any of those, I don't care who you are or what club you use, that ball's not going to go straighter more often. Hope you enjoyed this video. Hit the like and subscribe. If you know anybody that wishes to follow this series, it's a lot of fun. I'm not quite sure who we're going to evaluate next, but if you have some suggestions, let me know in the comments below. And I hope you have a great day, and fairways and greens.
I can see the sky.